Broc Brown has had an interesting life. The reason that his life has been so unusual is because of his astonishing height. This kid is tall. Really tall. Broc's height has caused him to suffer from chronic pain and constant ridicule. His family has also had to use their savings to pay for special clothes and furniture for Broc. After a few public appearances, Broc's life completely changed. When Broc Brown was born, he seemed like an average healthy baby. At birth, he weighed just under 8 pounds, and he measured 22 inches long. His mother, Darcy Moss Elliott, never suspected that there was anything abnormal about her son. As Broc began to grow, it became apparent that he was different from other children. After Darcy brought him home from the hospital, she realized that he was growing and that he was growing quickly. Broc was quickly outgrowing all of the one-season baby clothes that his parents had bought for him. He was as happy and as energetic as most other kids his age, but he seemed to be maturing ahead of his peers. It's normal for children to experience growth spurts, but it seemed like Broc's whole life was one long period of growth. When it came time for Broc to enter kindergarten, someone made an observation that would change the course of his life. On Broc's first day of kindergarten, Darcy noticed that her son was way taller than his classmates. Broc was already 5 foot 2 inches tall. Most 5-year-old boys in America are around 3 foot 6 inches at that age, and when he stood next to his classmates, he towered over them. By the time he got to first grade, Broc was amazingly the same height as his mother. At first, Darcy was just curious about her son's extraordinary stature. But it wasn't very long until she began to feel genuinely worried. Broc wasn't able to play in the same way that other kids were able to play. Darcy also noticed that it was difficult for Broc to complete everyday tasks. Darcy suspected that Broc's rapid growth may be due to something more menacing than your average run-of-the-mill growth spurt. Concerned for her son's well-being, she decided to take him to their family doctor for a thorough checkup. One doctor referred Broc to another doctor who did a whole bunch of tests. Once the results of the tests came back, Broc and his family would have some more answers about Broc's astonishing size. When Broc was 5 years old, doctors were able to give him a diagnosis. He has a rare condition that affects 1 in every 15,000 people. That condition is called Soto syndrome, which is also known as cerebral gigantism. When Broc's family first found out about the Soto syndrome diagnosis, they didn't know much about it. At first, Darcy just thought that it meant her son was a fast grower than the other children in his class. Unfortunately, there are some other, more dangerous effects of Soto syndrome. Doctors told Broc's family that Broc would not likely live past his teenage years. Doctors also explained that currently there aren't any treatment options for Soto syndrome. People born with Soto syndrome experience rapid and increased growth throughout their lifetime. They very quickly outgrow their older siblings and even their parents from a young age. Usually, children with this condition grow rapidly until they reach adulthood. At that point, they usually end up being the same height as most other people their age. But this wasn't the case with Broc. He didn't exactly fit the Soto syndrome description. While it's normal for children to experience growth spurts during puberty, Broc experienced a massive growth spurt and grew to be taller than all of his classmates. But it didn't stop there. Broc's growth spurt continued past middle school and high school. The doctors who were following Broc's condition noticed that he was growing to be taller than most people with Soto syndrome. This discovery made them even more concerned about his overall health. While at first, the doctors speculated that Broc wouldn't make it into early adulthood, now they were saying that sadly, he probably wouldn't make it to age 15. His growth rate was just too much for any human body to sustain. Extreme growth can be really difficult on the human heart. Broc was also suffering from an incredibly strained spine, ADHD, intermittent explosive disorder, and some learning disabilities. On top of all that, Broc was born with only one kidney, so his body can't properly process painkillers. He can't even take medication to make his daily pain more bearable. Because Broc can't take medications like Tylenol or Advil, his family has attempted to make his existence more comfortable. Broc's family ordered him a custom-made bed to fit his large frame. He also has a special chair that cost his family around $1,000. Broc has to sleep up to 16 hours a day during growth spurts. He has no energy to put towards being awake because his body is using all of its stored energy to continue growing. Broc is an eternal optimist, and he's come to terms with the fact that his life may be shorter than most people's. Broc said, "I just wish the doctors could do something to help my pain." Broc has trouble just living life every day because of his condition. It's hard for Broc to stand for long periods of time. It's also hard for him to fit in places like cars, restaurant booths, movie theaters, and airplanes. Luckily, Broc was actually able to do some traveling recently. He was given an opportunity that would take him miles away from his home and change his life forever. As you can imagine, he was elated to take the trip. Broc grew up in Jackson, Michigan, and he was something of a local celebrity in his home state. He came from a small town of about 30,000 people, but Broc's influence was so huge that news of his size eventually went nationwide. Broc held the Guinness World Record for being the world's tallest teenager until 2015. That was the year that he turned 20. He was no longer a teenager, so he could no longer hold the title. In 2016, Broc participated in a TLC documentary called Tallest Teens. The production followed teenagers who had far exceeded their peers in the growth department. Through his experience with Tallest Teens, Broc was able to meet other people his age with Soto syndrome. This helped Broc to understand that he wasn't alone, and he didn't have to suffer by himself. As Broc grew older, his growth rate didn't slow down. When he turned 19 years old, he was 7 foot 8 inches tall. Every year, he grows another astonishing 6 inches. If Broc continues to grow at this rate, he could become the tallest man in the world. The American public has watched Broc's journey through the TLC documentary, and they were now invested in his health and his story. Aside from medical bills, Broc's family was also responsible for clothing this growing boy. Broc would grow out of his entire wardrobe every year. Plus, he had to order special, often expensive, clothes because he didn't fit into traditional sizes. Also, all of the special furniture that Broc needs is a huge expense for his family. Broc's family did everything they could to support Broc, but sometimes they needed a little bit of help on the financial end of things. They decided to set up the support page for Broc Brown on Facebook. After the TLC documentary was released, their Facebook page accumulated more than 15,000 likes. Their Michigan community also ran several benefits for the Brown family, and they were able to raise over $10,000 for Broc's medical care. Broc's family was so thankful for everything people had done to help them, but they were still worried about Broc's future. Broc wasn't as worried as his parents were and always maintained a positive attitude. He was mostly just excited about all of the new clothes he was getting. The California-based company, Feets, heard about Broc's story, and they decided to use 3D printing technology to make shoes, especially for Broc's giant feet. When Broc received his first pair of Feet shoes, he said, "Heck, I don't like them. I love them. Thank you." These wonderful donations kept Broc distracted from his genetic condition, but he was about to receive some news from his doctor that would really throw him for a loop. Recently, Broc's family arranged for him to board a special plane so that he could visit a genetic specialist in Arkansas. He flew over 1,000 miles to meet Dr. Bradley Schieffer of Arkansas Children's Hospital, who was studying Soto syndrome. Dr. Schieffer said that he wasn't sure if he would be able to help fix Broc's chronic spinal pain, but he had some other news that Broc would definitely want to hear. While Broc had originally been told that he wouldn't make it to early adulthood, Dr. Schieffer gave Broc a different prognosis. He acknowledged that Broc had already proven most of his doctors wrong as far as life expectancy was concerned. Dr. Schieffer told Broc that he was no longer at risk of living a shortened life. "Broc is easily the tallest man I have ever seen," said Dr. Schieffer. "Unfortunately, he will always have to deal with some form of pain, but I believe that he will now have a regular lifespan." Broc's family was obviously overjoyed to hear this news. Broc said, "It's the best thing I could have heard. I'm so happy that I will live for a long time." Darcy cried when Dr. Schiefer told her that Broc would have a normal lifespan. Doctors still aren't sure if Broc will stop growing once he hits adulthood, or if he'll continue to grow. Whatever the future holds, Broc is just glad that he'll be around to experience it. Along with that, Brown and his mother are looking forward to spending a long future together. For her part, his mother, Darcy, doesn't want to push him to do anything outside of his comfort zone. "I just hope he has a good life and is happy with everything he ever does," the loving mother wishes for her beloved son.
Thanks for watching. If you liked the video, please hit the like button. If you want to see more videos, hit the subscribe button, and if you have something to say, please leave a comment.